Well, give me 8 to 10 minutes to rant on this. I can promise you this will be one of the last times I talk about the New York Jets on this podcast, on this show. If you've been watching the show, if you've been watching me, if you've been seeing my reels, my vines, my TikToks, or any of my social medias, you know where I stand with the New York Jets. I wasn't being clickbaity. I was on this 2 years ago. I'd said, you can't expect me just because you add a 39-year-old quarterback and think that I'm going to buy into you. The New York Jets will always be the New York Jets until they fix their ownership and front office. Their ability to be a stable organization is just horrendous. And at this point, they're the worst organization in football. It ain't the Cleveland Browns. It's the New York Jets. Do you know what was the longest playoff drought in the NFL? It's the New York Jets. I know the Browns are awful, but thankfully for them, whichever way you want to look at it, Deshaun Watson's leg basically snapped, and now they don't have that guy clouding up their roster and their team anymore. Now they kind of seem like a little bit of a plucky, fun team with Jameis Winston. New York Jets are nothing short of miserable. Davante Adams, I tried to explain to everyone 2 weeks ago. I wasn't hating on Davante. I had mentioned that there are multiple teams that should go get Davante Adams that could use Davante Adams. I had mentioned the Cowboys. I had mentioned other teams. I had mentioned the Bills. It just made no sense. And I had went after Davante Adams. I said, listen, if you're just going after the judgment, if you're going out of your way to join the New York Jets, you're going out of your way to join what is clearly not prime Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to come after your judgment. Just clearly, I'm going to come after your judgment. I'm going to think that you don't make good decisions. And I got a lot of pushback on that. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, well, the New York Jets are 0-2 with Davante Adams. They haven't exactly played star-studded competition. It's been the Pittsburgh Steelers and Russell Wilson that appears to have some sort of a renaissance. And then the New England Patriots. The Jacoby Brissett-led Patriots. Well, Ben, Jacoby Brissett didn't play that full game. A lot of it was Drake May. Okay, well, Jacoby Brissett had the game-winning drive. This Jets team is miserable. It's to the point where I feel bad for Jets fans. I almost feel as bad for them as I do Browns fans. The only reason why I say Browns fans is because Browns had to endure what was Deshaun Watson for the past couple of years. The New York Jets are an abomination of a franchise. And this is where my take really comes for the New York Jets. You know, there's a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers and if he should come back, if he should retire. What's the next step for Aaron Rodgers since they're clearly A, not going to be a playoff team, and clearly B, spiraling quicker than we all thought. Literally worse this year with Aaron Rodgers than they were with Zach Wilson a year ago. The New York Jets should be the one making the decision on Aaron Rodgers' future, not Aaron Rodgers. This whole question about, well, should Aaron Rodgers retire? He clearly doesn't have it anymore. If the Jets allow this clown show to go on another year, they're even worse of a franchise than I thought they actually were. If they allow this clown show, that is Aaron Rodgers and all of his buddies and the ruling with an iron fist, they are worse of an organization. They are much worse of an organization than I actually thought. The New York Jets should not be sitting there wondering if Aaron Rodgers is going to come back or not. If the Jets allow Aaron Rodgers to be their quarterback next year, or even worse, allow him to continue to rule with an iron fist, they deserve every reckoning that is coming their way. They already deserve every reckoning that is coming their way. They've consistently made bad moves. They fired Robert Saleh. They went and got all of Aaron Rodgers' buddies, and it's accounted for two wins. Well, Ben, that's not fair. Last year he played a game. Okay, fine. 3 wins. Even though he played 3 plays in that game. I think. This is not in the hands of Aaron Rodgers. And if the Jets want to start to begin what is the journey of being a competent organization, they're not going to let it be in the hands of Aaron Rodgers. That would be pure idiocy. The Jets should not allow Aaron Rodgers to be their starting quarterback next year. They owe Aaron nothing. They have given Aaron everything. They've given Aaron his OC. They've given him all of his buddies. Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb was on that team last year. Davante Adams. He has effectively, LeBron James style, ruled this team for the past year and a half. Enough is enough. Have some self-respect. Don't let Aaron Rodgers pull the plug on you and retire. You pull the plug on Aaron Rodgers. You owe him nothing. Well, Jets fans will say, well, it's not fair. Well, what else are we going to do? Go draft a quarterback. Go figure it out. Or go be terrible for a year and then go draft a quarterback after that. Well, I guess you're already terrible. But if the Jets allow this to go on, this freak show, this clown show, this nonsense, this anything but football culture go any longer, they deserve every ounce of reckoning that is coming their way. But if they want to show that they actually do have a grip on this franchise, and they've seen how the Aaron Rodgers experience has gone over the last year and a half, they will pull the plug on Aaron Rodgers, not let Aaron Rodgers pull the plug on him. Or I guess I should say, they will not let Aaron Rodgers pull the plug on them and retire. Sure, if he wants to retire, fine. Sure, if you want to come to some sort of agreement where it's a mutual thing, but you let Aaron walk, it's fine. Internally, make the decision to turn the page. Go get a real head coach. Go establish a real organization, some stability, some top-down leadership, a culture. Stop letting this be run by the players. It was so predictable, but no one else really thought this outside of a couple of people. The only person that comes to mind who agreed with me on this was Nick Wright, and he was just seen as an Aaron Rodgers hater, and maybe there's some truth to that, but there's no real defense at this point. The New York Jets are a tire fire. Aaron Rodgers is a tire fire. It's not working. Stop trying to convince yourself, if I just add one more player, it'll work out. Go get a different head coach. Pull the plug on this clown show. Establish a culture. Find some real leadership. And get your head out of your ass. Because this has gone on for far too long if you're the New York Jets. You've given Aaron everything. You owe him nothing. And at this point, if you continue to roll it out with Aaron Rodgers, it's just like the old saying goes. What is it? You lay with dogs, you sleep with dogs, you're going to get fleas. That's what the Jets are doing. Just getting fleas, laying down in the dumps of what is a quarterback and his friends who are clearly mostly over the hill. And that goes for not just Aaron Rodgers, but to a lesser extent, Davante Adams. Or Randall Cobb, who was well over the hill. Get off the train ride. Get off this clown show and have some self-respect. Pull the cord on the Aaron Rodgers experience. Go get your own guy. Go get your own culture. Go get your own head coach. Because newsflash, this ain't working. And it's never going to. All right, let's get to what would normally lead my show every week, a Monday Night Football reaction. Normally what would be seen as a instant reaction, but again, we're recording today, so let's just throw it all together into one. It's a lot of narratives this week. It's a lot of things going on. I'm trying to keep everyone in the loop. But the Pittsburgh Steelers come out victorious once again. They are 6-2, if I'm not mistaken, at the top of their division. I would assume so. They are 6-2. I know the lost this week, the Ravens, atop their division, and the ability to just continue to find ways to win. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's the problem. We've seen this story before if you're Pittsburgh. Now, let me ask you if you've ever heard this. I'm gonna recite to you a story. There's this really good head coach, really smart, really capable, gets more out of less, and coaches up a defense that is stifling. Beats up on bad opponents, and has a quarterback that can't make the play, but can make a play. They eventually make it into the playoffs and lose in the first round. The problem with the Pittsburgh Steelers craze that is now starting to go on is people are, again, we're in the part of the year where it's week 8 and the Steelers still aren't losing a lot of games. And then we remember at the end of the day, it's Pittsburgh. If we look at their schedule, they've beaten Kirk Cousins, coming off of an Achilles injury, where he had mentioned before as well, he just was too scared to step up, with Arthur Smith, the head coach as well, being able to give all the little juicy details about the Falcons' personnel. Bo Nix, in his second start, only scored 13 points in that game. The Los Angeles Chargers, who had Taylor Heineke running it out there for some of that game. They lose to the Cowboys. They lose to Joe Flacco. They beat Aiden O'Connell. They beat 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers. And they beat horrendous Daniel Jones. So if we're just going through the wins for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I get it, just win. We're looking at it and we're saying this. They beat Kirk Cousins after week 1 coming off of a torn Achilles in which they had the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. They beat Bo Nix in his second start, Taylor Heineke, who came in for Justin Herbert, 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers, Aiden O'Connell, and Daniel Jones. I'm not surprised. The question about the Pittsburgh Steelers has never been about, are they competent? Can they be a stable organization? Can they win 9 to 10 games? We've always known that with Pittsburgh. This idea that it's shocking that they're 6-2, I guess it is a little. Like, I didn't expect them to be this good. But this Steelers team, it's not an AFC conference title contender. It's not a Super Bowl contender. And I wouldn't pick them to win a singular playoff game. Because at the end of the day, in 2024, defense no longer wins you championships. And the wins that the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting are over Daniel Jones and Bo Nix in his second start and 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers and Aiden O'Connell. In the playoffs, you're not getting Aiden O'Connell and 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers and second start of the season Bo Nix. You're going to have to go through Josh Allen. You're going to have to go through C.J. Stroud. You're going to have to go through Lamar Jackson. You're going to have to go through Patrick Mahomes. And when you're taking Russell Wilson to that fight, which, call it what you want. You want to beat your chest that he was 20 for 28 and had 278 yards against an abysmal Giants team, you go ahead and do so, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. But I'll be here at the end of the year saying I told you so. Because what's going to happen is this frisky, plucky Steelers team led by Mike Tomlin, who is clearly a good coach, and no one has ever disputed that he's not a fantastic coach. But what's going to happen is this team's going to flame out. They won't win this division, but if they do, again, it wouldn't matter. They'll win 9, they'll win 10 games. They'll take Russell Wilson into the playoffs. They'll take this defense into the playoffs, and they'll get boat raced because their weapons are less than ideal. Najee Harris has been pretty good recently, but still, you look at these wide receivers. I'm not buying the trio of George Pickens, Calvin Austin, and Van Jefferson. Call me insane. Say I'm being a hater. Every year it's the same thing, and every year I'm right. It doesn't matter how many times I'm right about the Pittsburgh Steelers, you will still find a way to argue with me. I'm not saying they're a bad team. Not even saying they're a fraudulent team. I'm saying I've seen it before. Mike Tomlin good, smart, physical, tough head coach. Steelers play just like their head coach. Tough, physical. Defense is stifling. They beat up on a bunch of bad quarterbacks like Aiden O'Connell and 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers and Taylor Heineke and second start Bo Nix. And then they get into the playoffs. And then they have to play a real quarterback like CJ Stroud or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. And they'll get flattened like they do every year. This is not new information. This is not me giving you a hot take. The problem is we've seen this Steelers story year in and year out with Mike Tomlin. He's going to be a good head coach. He's going to get you 9 to 10 wins. You're definitely going to beat up on the bad teams just because you are more competent and you have a standard higher than that team. And you're not dysfunctional. No one thinks you are. The problem is you're too functional. You're too functional every year, getting more out of less with Mike Tomlin, but you'll never get over the hump. This team is not a conference championship team. They're not a Super Bowl team. I'm not even sure they're a one win in the playoffs team. They'll get there, but they'll bring Russell Wilson to a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud fight. And that is the equivalent of bringing a plastic knife to a bazooka fight. And you'll get rolled. And in the offseason, it'll be the same thing. Pittsburgh Steelers fans will say, well, we got to get a new head coach. And then it never happens because you are continuously stuck on doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's the Steelers. That is truly just what they are. An organization that is really good, but in the weirdest way possible, can't seem to get out of their own way. And they're going to win more games, and they're going to reel off a big upset. Maybe it's against the Ravens again. It's not going to change my opinion. Until you get to the playoffs and show me that this style of football works in 2024 where defense no longer wins you championships, it's just offense. Brock Purdy ain't holding up trophies. It's Patrick Mahomes. Until you prove that to me, I'm just not going to buy the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you shouldn't either. It's the same thing, different year, but with a fresh coat of paint. This is Pittsburgh Steelers football under Mike Tomlin.